Howdy ho. I can't remember how long it's been since my last video. Oh, sorry, moving the mic. I've bent my homemade mic stand. Yeah, I can't remember how long it's been since my last video, but feeling the need to make one because it's been so long. Also, because I think I mentioned in my last video that my neighbour, that way, my adjoining neighbour, um, got evicted. One day, just I was at home, and then I heard sort of like through the wall, and then I heard him go, "Yeah, right, right." Oh, what's going on? It's a nice bloke, sort of like quite quiet. Um, Seemed to have quite an interesting life, but had all these crazy stories about getting into conflicts with people. And then I just thought, what's going on? Did my old I'm an experienced curtain switcher, so I can do it without getting noticed. At least I think I do. I mean, no one's ever said they've seen me going. "Ugh." So I just take that to mean that I'm good at it. So sometimes you don't even have to switch the curtains. Sometimes you like, if the curtain's already open, you sort of go like you crane your neck like that. Here's a tip: stand as far back as you can. So then you like in the room. Don't stand right at the window because then you'll be really noticeable. So stand really far back because there's not the light source is up. Anyway. Yeah, and there was a load of like meatheads stood at the end of his front garden. Fucking hell, raggedy. I've been using beard oil. 99p from Savers. I had no idea how much of a rip-off beard oil is. I didn't know I needed it until I thought I'll just try some one day, and it sort of worked. And ever since, I thought if I don't use it, like the old, can't even call it face fuzz anymore. It's gone beyond that. It's like shredded wheat. So I bought this 99p stuff from Savers, and it's clearly all chemicals. And I was thinking, this is going to burn my chin off, isn't it? Because I'm generally quite allergic to stuff anyway. If I was going to be allergic to anything, it was going to be like really cheap beard oil, and bit of a tingle. But so far, I'm still in one piece. But I don't think it works as much as the normal stuff, which is really expensive. Can you get these? Comes in tiny little bottles, like for what, sort of £5, like 30 mils. It's like, oh, suddenly got a ring in my ear. Yeah, so my next door neighbour got evicted, and not that long ago, the signs went up outside his house for sale, and ever since then, we've had people coming and going. Like normally weekends, it's weekend now, so you know, there's always people coming and going at the weekend. Sometimes during the week, and then you like his house is clear, so you can hear him. It's really echoey next door, so you can hear him going closing doors. And if I'm in like watching the telly, and they're like going down the garden, you have to sort of sit there like not be doing anything, try not to do anything too embarrassing, or conversely, because I've realised that I don't like it when people are going to buy the house next door, especially when it's like adjoining. I think I've noticed myself putting my telly up really loud or my music. So go away. I don't like change. I quite liked having him next door. He was quiet, and also it's rife for development. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing a video now, because I know whoever buys it, and there's a what are they called? One of the estate agents signs up. There's two. There's some online one. It's one of these cash only online things. So that's brilliant. Who's going to buy that? Who's going to have like cash to buy a whacking great house in North London? It's not big, but developers probably, and it's primed for development. So it's probably whoever buys it, it's just going to be disruption and just banging and crashing for months afterwards. So I thought I'd better do a video now. You know, it could be my last one because the for sale sign. No, actually, the sold sign's gone up. And although weirdly, I did see someone looking round this morning. Maybe they're the ones who bought it. But I was out. I'd walk back, and the estate agent was sitting on her car, like on a sort of waiting outside for whoever it was. And it was just like a reflex reaction as I walked past. And I was like, she went right. I don't know whether it was. Did I sort of maybe give her sort of an inadvertent dirty look? I don't know. It was just sort of surprise, and I honestly passed that information on to the guy who turned up to look around the house because I've just had a dirty look from the neighbours. Maybe that might put him off. I've got to make them feel more welcome. Like to be honest, I would prefer it if no one lived there. We can't have everything, can we? That'd be nice if that was true. Then if everybody had everything they wanted, then it'd get to a point when like that was impossible, wouldn't it? If two people both said, "I want that," how would you solve that? I don't know where this has come from, but anyway, yeah. So I thought I'd make a video now because for probably workmen could move in any moment, start banging and crashing for months, and who knows when I'll what making videos will be like then. Not I'm making many. You can't see that, but that is The Price is Right. Oh, it was either The Price is Right or Octopussy, and I went with The Price is Right. Right. Yeah. And also after not that I'm already on 7 minutes. After last time's debacle of it was an hour and a half. That's just fucking ridiculous. Hour and a half. It's almost like a podcast. I don't get podcasts. Don't get them. Just like really long, drony radio shows. I don't get it. What's the difference between a radio show and a podcast? Location. I wouldn't listen to a radio show with one person banging on for an hour and a half. Why would I do it online? What's it? How marketing? Anyway, yeah. After the last one, Jesus Christ, I'm a bit of a hypocrite. That's quite hypocritical, isn't it? After last time's debacle, hour and a half, I thought, how can I change this? And that's like a habit of a lifetime, and nothing ain't going to change now. But at least give a bit of a stab. And I thought, oh no, I'll go into this needing a shit. If I start making a video, and I really need a dump, maybe that'll like sharpen me up a bit. It doesn't seem to work so far, does it? But anyway, right. There's nothing to talk about. I don't think there's anything much happened. It's just just nothing to mention apart from that, of course. I think most of the things I want to talk about will be tied into what I've got. These are like visual cues. The games, there's certain things associated with them and stuff. So yeah, not that they're all vaguely tied into what I said. Tied into what I've got, games and a few films. Yeah, nice little pile. That's another reason, one of the major reasons I'm making this video now, because I mentioned I had some credit in my last video, and I had about 400 quid. 400 quid, and I spent half of it. It's just, Jesus, it's taken this long. I've had it for about 6 months, or a good chunk of it for 6 months. It's been building up. It reached a peak of 400 quid. I've used half of it, so I've still got about 200. But, right. What's for films? As always, I'm not going to change. I don't like change. As I said, so I'm just going to keep things as I normally do. Films, not many. Some decent ones, interesting. A couple that I've seen like last time. A couple of duplicates, but yeah, right. These first few, they're as much to be watched as just for trading. As I mentioned the last time about sort of DVDs, how they're not the dead format yet. You know, they've don't know how many like sort of evolutions. You know, from the disc-based sort of. You know, I suppose it goes from VCDs to DVDs to Blu-rays to 4Ks, and what's next? I think isn't it people talking about 8K soon, which is ridiculous. But still, DVDs aren't the dead format. You sort of get the impression, or we're told to believe they are. Actually, I just wanted to mention about carry on with what we're talking about. I might have to hide. I might have to hide if someone comes to view next door because they'll park the car right there. And I did a bit of hiding last time, so you know, it's just my. You know, I suppose I could duck behind the screen like that, and then they'd just see the top of my head. Wonder what I'm doing, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, a few DVDs, dirt cheap, and how they're not the dead format, but as anybody knows, goes around charity shops, they don't seem to really be able to sell them. You know, like there's so many of them, and they get like churned out for pence, don't they? Sometimes a lot of them you'll go in and they'll have like 3 for £1 or something like that. But in amongst them all, there's always stuff worth having, always. And all of them, they're all sort of about £1. Some of them for trading in, some of them for keeping, but they're all, you know, worth more than £1. I mean, as far as sort of trading in or selling on, or you know, whatever, monetarily, they're worth more than that. So it makes sense. Always have a quick shufti at DVDs. There's certain things you need to look for, like, you know, are more likely to be, you know, like worth having. You know, certain things to avoid, certain things to look for. But like, I won't go into that because you know it just makes a video that's probably always going to be really long, a lot longer. But anyway, maybe I'll do another video. Which, considering next door, what's happening going next door, my next video, I'm thinking, will probably be an out and about one. I might have to make a pickups video down the park or something. Yeah, which is really unpractical. I've found in the past. But yeah, some DVDs, cheap ones, but if I wanted to trade them in, they would get me some decent credit. So this one, Anime, Your Name by a guy called Makoto Shinkai. Makoto Shinkai. Bit of a bedroom auteur, apparently. I suppose you could call him like the Oliver twins of anime. You know, he used to make them in his bedroom. I think. Oh, his earlier ones. I don't know if this is one of the. This is one of the later ones. Yeah, but his earlier ones. There's a box set you can get, which is 2 of his really early ones, and apparently they were both made in his bedroom. And this is sealed, and you know, if I want to trade this in, it's going to get me £4. So I've already quadrupled my money, but I think this is a keeper because it's supposed to be really good. It's a bit of a sort of an existential thing about 2 school kids who start getting these sort of not flashbacks as such, but these sort of visions as if they're living each other's lives, and then sort of the story develops from there. But it's supposed to be really good. But as I said, you know, if it's a watcher or a trader, it's worth having for £1. So the moral of the story is keep an eye out for DVDs if you want to build up some trade credit. And this is another one. I had no sort of real idea what it was, but it sounds a bit like heavyweight. But this is another thing to look out for. Old foreign black and white films. This was £1. This is another one that will get me about £4 by the guy. What's his name? Sergei Bondarchuk. He made that Waterloo film with Rod Steiger, which I quite like. This is about some Russian bloke whose life during the actually a weird theme to a couple of these life during the Second World War, how he sort of not fought back as such, but stood up to the Nazis. Might be something in that for this day and age. I might have to keep it, but I had intended to trade it in. But anyway, yeah. I don't really know much about that one. But, and this is another one. I think this was about 99p as well. And this one will get me out of £5, I think. But this one's probably more of a keeper. Andrei Rublev by Andrei Tarkovsky, who's probably made... Probably Solaris is probably his most famous film, sort of like the original Solaris, not the George Clooney remake. But this is another one. It's these artificial eye. Often, if they're older black and white foreign language films, they will be worth nabbing. But either to keep or to trade. But yeah, about the painter Andrei Rublev it's almost like I think he lived in the sort of the 14th, 16th century Russia. He was a painter, and he's almost like sort of lived during the Russian Renaissance, and he was an artist during like really sort of turbulent times. I suppose you would call him the Russian Michelangelo or Da Vinci. I don't know, but it's Tarkovsky, and this is one I've never seen. So I've looked at the trailer. It looks really good. But anyway, yeah. So if I wanted to trade them in, they all cost me in total about £3. I trade them in, I'll get £12 for them. They could have easily have been in like a 3 for £1, so which would make them like £1, and obviously, but they were. And another one, this was £1, I know as much, and I showed one of these in my last video, but this one's a keeper. It's another Werner Herzog, exactly the same ones I got last time. Like, two of these popped up in charity shops in the last few months. So this one's the keeper. I've taken the best of the two, so traded the other one in, and it's the same films that are on the. Yeah, the only one I've seen is the Enigma of Caspar Hauser. So. But I traded the other one in. I think that was about £1. That got me about £5, so it makes sense. But yeah, these are keepers. These next two are definitely keepers. A really nice little film. I don't think this one's available on Blu-ray. So, I think it is, but it's sort of like you only got import Blu-ray, like region-free import Blu-rays, and they're expensive. In other words. And it's a film called Me, Earl and the Dying Girl. This has been on Channel 4, always late at night, loads of times. And I think I've watched it a couple of times, but often it's quite late, so it's a bit of a chore to watch because I'm getting on and I tend to fall asleep a lot more easily now than I used to. I often fall asleep during Match of the Day on Saturday nights. That never used to happen. Me, Earl and the Dying Girl. It sort of feels like a rom-com, but it's not. It's a really nice, sort of touching film about he's the main character and that's his mate Earl, and they're like two sort of slight outsiders at high school, and they spend their time sort of sitting in their film library at school, and they make these they do remakes of famous films that were slightly skewed, but using sort of puppets and sort of, small models and things like that. Almost a bit like not Bottle Rocket. That Rushmore, that Wes Anderson film, like weird remakes of well-known films. And she's the girl from his school, and she's diagnosed with leukemia. And it feels like it's a rom-com, but it never goes that way. And it's a really nice, interesting sort of take on that sort of genre. I suppose it's sort of teen fiction, but no, it's really, really nice film. And actually, I've got a feeling you can get this on Blu-ray. I think I looked it up. I think I had trouble before and looked it up, and then you couldn't. Oh no, I'm confused. Anyway, but it's a nice film. Oh, posty. I wonder if I've got any post. The best Christmas film ever, Rare Exports. Yeah, it's Finnish, I think. Yeah, it's nuts. Really good fun. Oh, post. I've got post. So yeah, Rare Exports, the best Christmas film ever. Alternative Christmas film, I suppose. Not your classic Christmas film. Along with Krampus, which I watched first time this year. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Rare Exports. This is the one you can get on Blu-ray. That's the one. You can't really get that on Blu-ray unless you want an import one. This one you can get on Blu-ray, but I'm not that bothered. So yeah, really, really good fun. And this one, this was bought from Amazon. From Amazon, I think I had to buy my niece a birthday present or something, and I wanted to make up the £20 minimum spend so I could get free postage. And I bought a film I'd wanted for a long time. So it's La Planète Sauvage, or Fantastic Planet. I think it was about a tenner, by René Laloux. And René Laloux is one of my favourite filmmakers. I don't think he makes films anymore. He made a film called Gandahar, animator, Gandahar, and the Time, Masters of Time. Le Maître du Temps in French, I think. That's what I know it. Yeah, and this is sort of the first one, and it's sort of a... if you're into things like Ghibli and, Ghibli films, Miyazaki films, you might appreciate this. Or it's sort of like it's more sort of 60s trippy, French thing. So, keep that in mind. But it's, that's the sort of thing it is. La Planète Sauvage, Fantastic Planet. There's always this weird sort of surreal stuff in the background. Look, I've forgotten they're called. The blue ones are called Ohms, or they're like giant blue giants, and humans are like these tiny little midgets. There you go, like that. There you go. That's all the films. I'll move on because I'm already over 20 minutes. Right. Yes, this one was a purchase, charity shop purchase. I thought it was a bit of a bargain. Snapped it up, and it was about £1, but the disc was absolutely twatted. Probably the worst disc I've ever seen. It wasn't like really like deep scratches. It's just God knows how it had happened. It looked like it'd been almost like sanded, like in a sort of rotation. It was really weird. And like I took it into CEX, and the guy went, "Oh Jesus, it looks like someone's been ice skating on it or something." But it was a copy of Mario Kart. So he put it through the machine, and I did that with that copy of Double Dash that I showed last time, and I think it was Mario Party 8, and the only one of the three. It's going to read dark now, isn't it? Am I going to have to? Yeah, the only one of the three that actually works is Mario Party 8. Neither, and this looks okay. It's got a definite mark on it, quite probably deep mark, but the rest of this looks all right. And I've got a feeling if I wanted to trade this in, they might take it. But if I was a twat, but no, it's probably just gonna get ditched because the disc's sort of beyond repair, and so is Double Dash. So shame, but it was a punt. It was for 99p, and I looked at the disc and I knew it was a punt because there was a good chance the disc wouldn't work. Right, onto the decent stuff. This game, I last Friday, I went down to Bournemouth. It was my birthday. I went to Bournemouth to go and watch Sleaford Mods, the best band in the world. They were brilliant. It's just cracking band, brilliant live, really really good. But the next Saturday I was getting the train back, and there was fuck knows what was going on with the trains, but I had some time to wait, so I was getting a train back from Havant because my friend was from Portsmouth. I was getting a train back from Havant, so I looked around Havant, and it's a fairly nondescript little town, not bad, some decent charity shops. They used to have a game shop when I was there a couple of years ago. That's gone, shame. But they've got a CEX, and look around their CEX, and they've got a PS2 game, one called Genji. And not the sort of genre I'd normally have, but it's supposed to be a decent sort of, I suppose you say, Onimusha, like, I suppose you say Onimusha, God of War, Devil May Cry type game, hack and slasher, I suppose. But this is one of the it's one of those games that was sort of really short, so not really worth the full price sort of investment when it was brand new. But you know, maybe years down the line, £1.50 is probably about sort of what it's worth because of how much actual gameplay there is. But yeah, it's supposed to be decent, and one of the reasons I got it because it's one of the best looking PS2 games. It looks gorgeous. I've watched quite a lot of gameplay videos or before I bought it, and it looked stunning for a PS2 game. Some really nice sort of really colourful, some nice sort of lighting effects, so make quite a nice atmosphere. So that was one of the reasons I put it on my list. So I thought £1.50, and it was basically I was just killing time. So yeah, other than that, I tend to sort of steer clear of sort of putting sort of fairly nondescript games in my PS2 collection. You know, I think this is sort of I've got games on my list. I thought if I had all of them, it would sort of the general standard would broaden slightly. You know, I quite like my PS2 collection because it's really tight, and the general standard is pretty high. You know, as far as sort of collectability and all of that, but you know, game wise. But yeah, I thought this was worth nabbing. Right, couple of really cheap purchases. A game that I've always liked the look of for 360. A couple of 360 ones from Cash Converters. Yeah, a couple of 360 games from Cash Converters. I think I was just randomly out one day. I think sort of ducked into Cash Converters, and I thought these were two that I'd had my eye on. Only 50p for Red Faction Armageddon. It's not worth much more than that if you go and get it from Computer Exchange. But it's one I always wanted to nab, and sort of like I'd looked at a lot of gameplay video. Another one that I looked at a lot of gameplay video down the years, and it looked sort of decent, and it's got a decent reputation, but doesn't get talked about. Like the Red Faction games never do they? Even from the first one, I've got the PS2 game, and always sort of enjoyed it. You know, it's I suppose sort of first-person shooters back then hadn't really hit their peak or began to hit. You know, they couldn't. The technology couldn't really match what they were intending to do, and I suppose from probably this generation and probably the current generation now is probably where it's hit the level where they do what you want them to do. But I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was about. But yeah, anyway, this one is always one that interested me, and I couldn't really sort of ignore it 50p, even though if you wanted to buy it from Computer Exchange, it'd probably only cost you about £1, I think. So, but 50p is quite attractive to me, which rhymes. And together, probably sort of Game of the Year edition of Batman Arkham City. I've got a very small 360 list. There's not much on it. They're all really accessible games, so it's never right at the sort of peak of my sort of goals. But every so often, if I see them round about this sort of really budget price range, good games, I'll nab it. And there was a bit of confusion with this one. The woman went to get the discs. She found the discs and then put them in here. And I knew it was the Game of the Year edition. And I looked at the discs. I'd actually paid my money and left the shop. Looked at the discs. I thought, hang on, none of these discs say Game of the Year edition. So I went back in, questioned it, and she went, "No, she doesn't know." So she looked, and there was another version of the game, and it only had one disc in it that they had. And then I remembered that it's the Harley Quinn. It's not Harley Quinn, the Catwoman. Oh fuck! Oh, go away. Some bloke like peering in through the window next door. I bang on the window. Go, it says sold. Why is he bothering? But anyway, yeah. So it's the Catwoman DLC. It comes on a separate disc, So that's what I was hoping I was getting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have paid £2.50. So yeah, ultimately, we both came to the conclusion that she had given me the right copy, and I'd essentially wasted her time. I was quite apologetic. As long as you're apologetic, then we had a bit of a laugh. Right. Yeah, this one, another charity shop purchase. This one's been right at the top of my 360 list. I could, with so many my game lists now, I could get the ones at the top, which is sort of often sort of 3 or 4 games, and that would be it. So realistically, I could sort of stop buying games in sort of the near future. This is one of the ones at the top of my 360 list. It's Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. Yeah. And I've been looking at this in Computer Exchange. Never quite wanted to pay. It was often sort of hovered around about £6 to £8. Never wanted to spend my credit on it. So luckily I saw one in a charity shop, and it's got both discs. And I don't think it's a manual. It's more of one of those, sort of token little slips that go in the other side of the disc. So. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. As I don't have a current gen console, I have to make do with this. And I don't think there's going to be much difference between this and one on the modern consoles, do you think? Anybody who's played both, I mean, how much difference is there? I mean, games like Rayman Legends, I played it on my 360, and looking at how good it looks, I can't imagine it could be any better on a current gen console. It probably is, but in my head, I can't quite imagine how it is. So basically, if I ever got a current gen console, it would spoil me. It would spoil all of my last gen games that I've got, and I'd go, oh God, I don't want to play them anymore. But, more charity shop purchases. This was £1. I think I bought this with another game and traded the other one in. This one was a keeper. Mr. Driller Drill Spirits for the DS. Basically, Mr. Drill on the DS. I don't know how this varies from the original game. I've got the PS1 game, which is a nice little puzzler. I tend to play more puzzlers on handhelds than anything actually nowadays. But so I think this could easily get a bit of playthrough, a bit of gameplay. I think because, like I said, I've enjoyed Mr. Driller on the PS1. So yeah, I don't know how it varies though. But it was 99p, and I think it came with a copy of Nintendogs. It was the Chihuahua one, which was worth nabbing and then trading in. Couple more DS games. I bought these recently. Bit more expensive, but I knew they were worth it. 2 Phoenix Wright games. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the original one, American DS, and it was a £5. I suppose that's pitched about right, isn't it? Because it's definitely a bargain, but slightly more expensive than sort of, charity shop standard prices, which I don't think should, people shouldn't have that attitude. They shouldn't have that fixed idea that charity shops should always sell things at rock bottom prices, because you'd be missing out on stuff. I mean, I don't want to criticise anyone, but I've seen like often resellers complain that prices are too high, but then go on to buy something that I know and then price it at a level which I know is too high. So there's a certain hypocrisy in that. But we should all just suck it up. I think we've been spoiled for too long when it comes to charity shop prices. People are, we're achieving enlightenment. We shouldn't. They're achieving enlightenment. We know better. They know better. So everyone should know better. So then we should just suck it up, pay their prices. If the prices are too high, then don't pay them. Then, if you don't pay them, then their prices will eventually come down. Then you can sort of pay what they're willing to charge. But that was a slightly unintended rant there. anyway, yeah, 2 of them, and Justice for All. The only other Phoenix Wright game, it's not Phoenix Wright, it's the Apollo Justice game I've got. So, yeah. It had, I think it had, what else did it have? It had 3, it was in the same charity shop, in the window, 3 Japanese DS games. It had Electroplankton, and I think, can I get Electroplankton? I didn't know whether it would make any difference, the fact I couldn't speak Japanese. But in the end, I left it, because, that would have been pain. 15 quid in one go, and I fuck that. That's a no-no. Right, stuff that isn't from charity shops or out and about. My last eBay purchase, it's all PS1 games from now on. Woo! Yeah, this one will need an up. I don't know what the fuck's going on with. Oh, I didn't realise just sort of the hologram on this game, PS1 game, is slightly more knackered than I realised. It's a game called Carnage Heart. Outwardly, you think it's like a mech game, and it is a mech game, but it's a sort of different mech game in that it's more sort of AI based. You don't actually do the. It's more sort of strategy. You don't really do fighting yourself. You sort of program them. You create and program these mechs. If I'm not mistaken, not played it yet. But yeah, this was only £8, and it's one of those games that sort of doesn't often sell because the prices are too high. And because it doesn't sell, then there's no price index. There's no value, and so when one sort of pops up an auction, then sort of people tend to pounce on it. I just got lucky because I think I put in an initial bid of a £5 with £3 postage, and someone tried to snipe me right at the end, but something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, I think I got slightly smug because a sniper failed. It's always nice when that happens. But yeah, it's having not played it, but I bought it because it sounded like exactly my sort of game in this sort of strategy strategy mech game. It's more strategy mech game. Whereas if there's an actual proper mech game, like a first person mech game, I'd tend to sort of not know how to control to control it, and then just sort of panic and die. If I ever played Thingy on the Xbox, with the old that one. What the fuck is it? Someone remind me. I know what it is. It's right at the tip of my tongue, but the words escaped me. If I ever played that, I'd be fucking shocking. But anyway, this is probably more my bag, more my wheelhouse. Carnage Heart. Not a common game, but not expensive, and like I said, doesn't often sell because they're all priced too high. Right. I went to the London Game Market in March. I thought there were going to be other YouTubers there, and most of the people I know or speak to weren't there. No, none of them. That's the thing. There were people I recognised, but I wasn't sure if they were people who watched my videos. They weren't really people I'd ever sort of interacted with, and so me being me, I sort of like hid slightly. not because I didn't want to talk. It's just sort of like, it's sort of that situation. You go, I don't know if you watch my videos, so I don't know. I sort of, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? No, I didn't even make a point. It was there were a few recognisable faces there who I don't actually know sort of to talk to, so to speak. So me being me, I just sort of hid. I've watched their videos, but I don't know if they watch my videos. I don't know if they know me. So that's the main reason. So I just go, I'll just hide. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. I just went for a look around. I took some trading stuff, and in the end bottled it because it was just fucking ram-packed, and I thought there's no way I can be asked in this crowd talking to people so they can sort of take a look through what I've got to value it. I think what I had would have been worse than decent credit, but I just couldn't be asked. So in the end, I found something that I thought, yeah, that's a bargain, and it turns out it was actually more of a bargain than I realised. But called Gun Gauge, a game that I've had my eye on for a long time. It's a sort of game that's gone up in price in recent years. I can remember seeing this for about a tenner, not on eBay, and it sat there for a good few weeks or month or so, and no one bought it. But nowadays, if you saw one for a tenner, that would get snapped up in like 5 minutes. But yeah, this was only 18 quid. This was Console Passion. I always thought Console Passion were really expensive from reputation, but this was 18 quid. And I asked the guy if he would take 15, and he went, yeah. So 15 quid for this. I mean, I think they're about 25, 30 quid upwards. I think, some go higher. So it sort of surprised me to get an actual bargain and something like that, because, I think from now on, if I go, I'll probably go later just so I can avoid the massive throngs. But yeah, a nice little game actually. A nice little game. I suppose you can compare it to Sin and Punishment, but not as good. Crimson Sea, I think. It's like a run and gun, third person run and gunner, but he's right behind your character. It's that sort of perspective, sort of, I suppose, comparable perspective-wise, not gameplay-wise, to something like Space Harrier. It has a certain feeling of Space Harrier. It reminds me of Space Harrier a bit, but you're not just constantly going to the screen. It's more, you have more control over the movement of your character. But yeah, not a bad little game. I know Reggie, what's his name? Reggie, his name, has mentioned this in one of his Hidden Gems videos, but yeah, I already knew of it. It's actually really nice, Nick. It's spot on, Nick. One little crack there on the L and the P. But that's about it. That's the only criticism I've really got, and I've got replacement cases. So, one thing I'd like to, I can't be asked to get it out. No, some of the names in this are fucking mental. If you play enough certain sorts of video games, especially fantasy or like sci-fi based ones, they have all these made up names. You get to realise that some of them are pretty bonkers, and this is probably the worst. I think one of the main character. I think you have a choice of 3 or 4 characters. I think at the beginning, one of the main characters is called Wakel Skade, which is interesting. But anyway, yeah, Gun Gauge. Right, last two. So this is what I spent my credit on. I sort of decided recently. Like I said, I've got stuff to trade in as well. So I probably would have, if I traded it in, I would have had about sort of 425 quid credit. But I haven't traded it in yet. But at the time I bought these, I had about 400. And I thought to myself, I had thought about getting a Switch. I thought about getting a Saturn and a PS4. Because certain games on the Saturn I really want to play, but I thought to myself, if I spend some of it on a system, it's basically facilitating buying more games. So if I don't get the system, then I won't have, I won't have to go out and buy games, because games and systems are redundant, independent of each other, aren't they? So one of them facilitates the purchase of the other. So I thought to myself, if I buy a Switch, I'm just sort of, it's redundant unless I go out and buy games. Likewise, I was looking at Shining Force 3 on the Saturn, and buying that would have meant having to buy a Saturn or Panzer Dragoon Saga. So in the end, I thought, no, I'm just going to stick to the plan of getting games for systems I've already got, and maybe down the line I'll get another system. I'll just build up some more credit and get a Switch, which was probably, I was closest to getting, because I'd had given it proper consideration. But I'd only want certain sorts of PS1 games. So these are PS1 games. Right at the top end, because I thought if I've got the credit now, I'd rather spend it on something big and chunky rather than lots of piecemeal purchases, and I'd taken ages waiting for things to come in stock locally that I could travel to, branches that I could travel to. In the past, had taken a shot online, and then often it's not been up to scratch on boxed games because they're always sort of more around about my price range. I'm not that interested in the mint games unless I know that they're significantly cheaper. So I've taken a long time to wait for them to come into stock locally, and then up until now, none of the higher price games I've seen have been up to scratch, and I take that to mean that it's the way their system works, and it's not criticism. It's just otherwise, because they couldn't do it any other way because it would just be fucking insane. Because they have only the two classifications for PS1 games. Like boxed or mint. If they had proper grades of quality, it would just be a fucking logistical nightmare. So I'm quite happy to buy things in the way they do it. It's just I just have to bide my time waiting for games that are up to scratch for me, or either that change my ways, change my whole psyche, my mindset, and just accept sort of games that are in rougher condition. So like I said, I'd done like tours of like local branches. I've been pretty far out, like as far as I can go on the London transport, and nothing up till now. Like it's been months, maybe a year or so. Nothing had been up to scratch. I saw these two games in Rathbone Place branch, and I was going to do a bit of a tour. I'd had sort of potentially I could have spent all my credit in what sort of like on this particular day, and I'd had a bit of a tour, and I was going to go and look at certain games that I'd seen were all in like local branches. It turns out these two were the only ones that are really sort of worthwhile. But I'll put it for you happily. The first one, you might be able to guess what the next one is, sort of. First one is Mega Man X5, and this is actually in really nice nick. That's really nice nick. I think often sort of these sort of grade standards of games, like these heavy hitters, as people say. I think because there's not much, the grading system's slightly unwieldy in that, when it comes to boxed games, you can have, just sort of like a slight step below mint will be the same price as one that's sort of a, at the bare minimum they're willing to accept. Both the same price. So I think it's that when you have people like people who have these games and they want to trade them in, maybe they're collectors or they have some rough copies. If you've got a rough copy and you have like an upgrade, you upgrade sort of a game, then sort of they represent better value if you've got a rough copy of a game, than one that's almost mint. So does that make sense? So in other words, it pays for someone to trade in a sort of a rough copy of a sort of a heavy hitter game than it does to sell it on eBay, because you're more likely to get sort of better value for it. If you know what I mean? If you're willing to accept credit. Yeah, does that make sense? Don't know. I feel like I've been talking for a very long time. But anyway, Mega Man X5, really nice nick. Really nice nick manual. Disc is a good 8. The only slight downside is a slight little stain there, and it's nothing really. You can't even see it from the other side. And that's something I'm perfectly happy to accept. But so that was £92 credit. Well, that's what they asked for it. Whether you're paying credit or cash, whatever. But 92 quid, slightly high. I think it seems to go for around about 70. I think the last few have gone around about 75. So 92, it's a bit high, a bit weighty, but I was getting bored with waiting. The credit was burning a hole in my pocket, and the other one, Slightly out of order, but Mega Man X4. I put this last because it's sort of the sort of the pricier game, and this one was 115. So together they were 207, which is about half my credit. I think is someone going to look at? Are they going to? Is that an estate agent? Oh bollocks! Maybe not. I don't know. Can't tell. I don't know. Anyway, I'll just hide. But yeah, so together they were about half my credit. But they're both in really decent nick. This one was slightly weird. The case is a bit iffy. I think I have to have a look at that. Slightly weird is that I felt sorry for the girl who was helping me, because I asked her if I could look at them, and so you know how they do if you want to look at something, they all come out from behind the counter, because probably to guard against like smackheads who will grab them and run. That's why they do it. If you notice that, they always give it to you on the other side of the counter, and you can only ever look at one at a time. So obviously that's from experience. But disc is okay. Disc's probably about a 6.5, probably about a 6. It'll play, but if it really bothers me, I can get it resurfaced. But yeah, she opened it up. Oh, that's weird. Actually, I don't know what's wrong with that case, but it came with another manual, a weird one. I've got one manual here. It came with two manuals, and they were both. What the fuck? I thought, there's two manuals. I looked through them, like I had a quick look through them all while she was stood there. Yeah, it is. That's weird, isn't it? I went, yeah. Then one of them's clearly got the PlayStation banner on it, and this one hasn't. I thought, this one's the better condition one. So I looked at it, and it looked exactly the same. So I thought, and I just sort of wondered aloud about why there was two. And she goes to me. Initially, she'd said, "You're a collector," when I asked for both of them. I went, "Oh yes, yeah," for my sins. But then, when I wondered about why there were two manuals, she goes, "Well, you know, we could like take one, and I'll just sort of chuck the other one away." And I went, "God no!" And the guy in the queue behind me sort of laughed. I'm thinking, it's not often you like that sort of obsessive level of collector, particularness sort of comes out in the open. It never sort of rears its ugly head in public. I felt quite sorry for her because I went, God no, and she sort of, I got the impression of, out the corner of my eye, she sort of stood to the side of me. I got the impression she sort of like was slightly taken aback the fact I'd essentially implied it was sacrilege if she'd chucked away one of sort of the extra manual. But I was thinking to myself, bargain, I've got two manuals, I can sell one on. Well, it's not quite as simple as that, because I looked at it, sort of. I bought it, obviously, and then I looked at the weird one, the one without the PS1 banner. I thought, why is this one different? They look exactly the same. They're the same size and the same thickness. They've both got multiple languages. And I looked at it, and I thought, something clicked in my head. Realised it's a PC version, big box PC version. I had no idea this game would have appeared on PC, but this is a big box PC manual, and not at all worth selling on. There's one on eBay for about £4. You'd think, oh, that'll be worth selling on. No, it ain't. But so if anybody's got a big box PC version of Mega Man X4 missing a manual, I don't think anyone would have, because they seem to be mostly sort of German, but it's multiple language manual. But yeah, I won't put them together. I'll leave them separate. But yeah, I just thought that was weird. Why are they all in there together? But I apologise to the girl. She won't be watching, but if she is, on the off chance she is, I apologise for the way I reacted when you said that should you throw away the other one, and I went, God no. And essentially said that would have been sacrilege. So, apologies for that. Right, not quite as long as last time, but still fucking ages. Nearly 55 minutes. So I'm going to go. No doubt there was stuff I was going to talk about, but I've forgotten. But if I remember it and start banging on now, it's going to be another hour-long one. So I don't want that. So you might not hear from me for a long time. If someone buys next door and then starts refurbing. you know, I'll have to think of another way to make videos. Maybe that's maybe the spur I need to make more videos. But anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, cheers, peeps. I'll let you go. Thanks for watching. See you later. What a lovely succinct sign off. Cheers.